What are constructors? Constructor declarations look like method declarations except that they use the name of the class and have no return type. So let's try to understand this particular statement with an example. Okay, the example what we are using is the class bicycle. So let's try to understand in the class bicycle how can we define a constructor. In this class bicycle we have defined two constructors. One, public class bicycle. Another is again public class bicycle. The difference between these two constructors is the first constructor is having three parameters: 1, 2 and 3, and second constructor is not having any parameter. So this says one important thing, and what is that? A class can have many constructors, right? So a class can have many constructors. Now let's see the first constructor. In the first constructor we are passing three parameters. One is start cadence. Cadence is nothing but the rhythm. Let's say in a bicycle when you are paddling, it has a particular rhythm, so that is the cadence. You have start speed, and the third is in start gear. We are assigning these three parameters to the three private variables of this class, that is gear, cadence and speed. Okay, so whenever you call this constructor, let's say you call a constructor saying new bicycle, into bracket you pass three parameters, it will call this particular constructor. Okay, now let's see another constructor. Another constructor is again public bicycle, but it is having no parameters. Okay, and here we are assigning values: gear equal to 1, cadence equal to 10 and speed equal to 0. So whenever you will call a constructor without any parameter, automatically this particular constructor will get called. Okay, so let's try to see how these constructors are called. So using constructors, bicycle, my bike is equal to new bicycle, and we have passed three parameters: 30, 0 and 8. What this will do is, this will call this particular constructor where the values are 30, 0 and 8. So the first value is cadence, which is 30, second value is speed, which is 0, and third value is gear, which is 8. And these three values will get assigned to gear, cadence and speed, right? So new bicycle 30, 0 and 8 creates space in memory for the object and initializes its field. So it created a space in memory for the object my bike, and it assigned or it initialized the fields of the bicycle class, the three fields: gear, cadence and speed, with three values, that is 30, 0, 8 and 8. Let's see how to call the next constructor or another constructor. Let's create another object, bicycle. So I'm creating an object of type bicycle. Name of the object is your bike equal to new bicycle. Now since we are not passing any parameter to this object, okay, we are saying new bicycle, it will automatically call this particular constructor. Since we are not passing on any values, it is using the values which are already declared in the class, that is gear equal to 1, cadence equal to 10 and speed equal to 0. So bicycle your bike equal to new bicycle invokes the no argument constructor to create a new bicycle object called your bike. So if you want to call a constructor where you have 3 parameters, you call this. If you want to call a constructor where there is no parameter, you call this. Okay. So now if you see, both the constructor could have been declared in bicycle because they have different argument list. As we saw right initially, that a class can have many constructors, but all the constructors should be unique. So how they are unique? First, both constructors should have been declared in bicycle because they have different argument list. So they need to have a different argument list. Second, as with methods, the constructors are differentiated on the basis of the number of arguments in the list and their types. So you cannot have 2 constructors with the same number of arguments of the same type. So you cannot go and declare again another constructor saying public bicycle integer integer integer. Not allowed. You cannot write 2 constructors that have the same number and type of arguments for the same class. What happens if you write that? If you write that, any platform would not be able to differentiate among the 2 constructors, and it will give you a compile time error. Okay. Now the question is, can I have 2 constructors? Okay, let's have this bicycle constructor. I have another bicycle constructor with same number of parameters, 3 parameters over here, 3 parameters over here, but let's say the type of the parameter is different. Can you do that? Yes. You can have 2 constructors like this and this, which have the same number of arguments, but the type is different. Let's I would like to give you some tips while working with constructors. Okay. Constructor tips. First of all, it's not mandatory to call any constructor for a class. So you can define a class without a constructor. But then the question is, what happens? The compiler will automatically provide a no argument. So the compiler will automatically provide a no argument default constructor for any class without constructors. So let's say in a bicycle class, if we didn't have any constructor, it will automatically provide a no argument default constructor. So where does it provides this no argument default constructor? The no argument default constructor is defined or is used of the superclass. So if a class is not having a constructor, the default constructor will call the no argument constructor of the superclass. But we have not extended our class public bicycle, so it doesn't have a superclass. So which constructor it will call? So now this is an interesting thing you need to understand. If you are not defined explicit superclass, then your class has an implicit superclass of object. So there is the this is the base class for everything, and that is the object. So that is the super class. So whenever you're creating any class, automatically it inherits a class called as a object, and in this particular instance named object. So it's very important concept, please try to understand. You can use access modifiers in the constructor declaration to control which other classes can call the constructor. Okay, for this particular statement to understand, I would say you first try to understand what are access modifiers. If you try to understand access modifiers, you'll understand that if you define a particular constructor as private or public, it will have its impact while you do big massive programs. Okay, so try to understand what access modifiers in details, then I would say you'll understand this statement properly.